Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k Necron. So in today's video I've got 13 top tips for Necron players. Now in 9th edition we did do this video, but this is a bit of a refresh. We're now in 10th edition of course, so some of these bullet points will be the same as 9th edition. Some of them won't be, some of them will be brand spanking new. But yeah, 13 top tips for Necron players. Let's get on with it. So let's kick this off with number 1. We've got reanimation equals movement. So most of you will be aware by now, if you are reanimating models, you're going to be bringing them back into unit coherency of the unit. Now let's just take this example. You've got 5 Necron warriors in a unit here, and you've just been very unfortunate and you've lost 3 of your models. What you could be doing here in this example is taking the 3 from the back, so they are now gone. When you're doing your reanimation protocols roll, let's say you succeeded with 3 of them, you can actually put them at the front of the unit, and guess what? They can now be put onto the objective. So you can actually gain movement in that sense by getting onto objectives, getting into screening locations potentially, or just getting closer or further back. In fact, it doesn't necessarily have to be forward, it could also be backwards as well. Maybe you're trying to make a charge move even more difficult for your opponent to do, so you would take from the front in that case. But yeah, reanimation equals movement. Number 2, always take your crypto thralls. Now I made the mistake of doing I don't know if it was a 2k list or a 1k list, I think it was a 2k list on the channel. I didn't bother with the crypto thralls, it was quite early edition and I was just showing you and sharing my list. That was a huge blunder. You must take crypto thralls. Now crypto thralls, they're going to be going with the cryptech unit. You can take them on their own, but you wouldn't. You would take them with a cryptech, and the cryptech of course will go with either a Immortals unit, a Warriors unit or a Lich Guard unit. And it all depends on what cryptech you're taking, I suppose, but you will have the crypto thralls there. Now the crypto thralls not only have the 4+4 no pain save, but they give that 4+4 no pain save to the cryptech model, just in case he gets precision struck by range or melee attacks, or maybe there's the epic challenge stratagem from your opponent's characters. So giving the 4+4 no pain save on your characters will be useful, but mainly it's for the crypto thralls. Now the reason why this is so good is the crypto thralls are 2 wounds each, so that's 4 wounds in total. And if you've got a 4+4 no pain save, it means on average your opponent needs to be doing 8 wounds, single individual wounds, to the unit they're in, whether it's Warriors, Lich Guard, Immortals. 8 wounds to go through just to get rid of them on average. Now of course this doesn't apply to damage 2, damage 3 and so on, because that's a little bit different, but then you still do get your feel no pain save on each of those rolls, or each of those damage numbers. So they are a massive benefit to us in terms of our durability. And also don't forget, we've got reanimation protocols from all sorts of different avenues, whether it's the stratagems, whether it's a ghost arc, a resurrection orb, a canoptic reanimator. There's loads of different ways of using reanimation protocols, and as the crypto thralls are actually part of the bodyguard unit, they've not got the leader ability, so they're not leaders, they're not separate there, they are actually part of the bodyguard unit. You can literally use reanimation protocols on your crypto thralls to bring them models back up again, which is really useful. So yeah, point number 2, do not go without your crypto thralls. On to number 3, we've got Know Your Foe. Now we've done a few Know Your Foe, I don't know if you've done them in 10th edition yet. We need to start doing Know Your Foe. Remind me guys in the comments. Know Your Foe. What is Know Your Foe? You need to know what kind of factions you're going up against. Ideally you want to know all of them, but there's quite a lot to learn there. That's going to be more easier said than done of course. But if you can sort of learn a few of them, especially the ones in your local meta, if you've got loads of Space Marines around your local gaming club, then start to learn their faction. Start to learn what Oath of Moment actually means and why it's so good for them. Start to learn what Guilliman can do. Things like that. And you could do that with all of the different factions that are available to 40k players. And once you start to figure out the ways they actually play, their play styles, their stratagem uses, the common stratagems, the units that you're most afraid of, it will make you a better player against those particular opponents and overall in general as well. So the more of these factions you know, the better you will be as a player. So definitely know your foe. Number 4, make sure you've got units that can actually score secondary objective cards. Now we've got quite a few that are very good at scoring secondaries. I've got a few on the screen here for you. Tomb Blades, they're fairly quick. You've got the flayed ones because they've got the infiltrate ability. Scarabs, although they've not got any OC, they can still be doing those little actions like cleanse or deploy teleport homers. and Amphibian Destroyers with their tunneling horrors can keep popping in and out every single turn. So whatever secondary objective card you get, they can probably do it. So you need these kind of units that can score. If you've just got 60 Necron Warriors within a list, yeah, that's cool, that's going to be really resilient. But the likelihood is if you score deploy teleport homers or capture enemy outpost, your Necron Warriors are not likely to do it and do it quickly. You want to be doing these secondary objectives in the same turn that you draw the card. You don't want to be waiting around missing out on points, because your opponent is going to be scoring points each and every battle round. So you need units that can score, and there's a few of them on this that can do that job. Number 5, use correct character synergy. Now I've got a couple of examples again for you on the screen here for character synergy. I've got the Locust Lord with 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers with the Exterminators. I think that's a real good piece of synergy, because that Locust Lord not only has the Resurrection Orb, so you can be using reanimation protocols in your opponent's command phase, but also he's going to be given 5+ critical hit rolls, and those Exterminators have got sustained hits 1. They've each got 12 shots at rapid fire range. I've said this many times in our videos, a unit of 3 of them on average is going to have 42 hits when you've got a Locust Lord in the unit. So that piece of synergy is crucial for getting out all that damage. As another example here, your Necron Immortals, you can use Amrakir the Traveller for a +1 to the wound roll, and the Plasmancer again, critical hits on a 5+. So if you've got those Tesla Carbines, for example, those exploding 6s again, or the Gauss Blasters with the lethal hits, they'll now be on a 5+ rather than a 6+. So it's all about having the correct character synergy. You don't necessarily need, for example, Orokin the Diviner with a unit of Lich Guard with a sword and shields, because they've already got the invuln saves from the shield, so that would be a complete waste of a character. You don't need him. You need to be probably taking a Technomancer in that situation. So you just got to think a little bit carefully about which characters are going to go with which unit. I mean, we've got the luxury here of being able to add numerous characters to units. In fact, we can have a maximum of 2 if you weren't aware. Not many factions have that ability to have 2 characters in one unit and applying all the abilities from the characters to that one said unit. So it's a real good bonus for Necron players, just make the most out of using it. Index cards are good. I say they are good, they are, but only good at this present time. Now of course, once you do get a codex, I don't really know what's going to happen with these cards, because they're not going to be, I mean, maybe the data sheets will be fine, but I don't know where we're going to go, because this is just the launch index. But every single game that I have played so far, I've had these index cards out, and I've been using them. I've been using them just to check statistics, because there's been a few stats that have changed. For example, the Canoptic Wraiths have ballistic skill 2+ on their particle casters, for example. You've also got the toughness changing on the Locust Destroyers, going to toughness 6, things like that you may sometimes forget, because 9th edition to 10th edition has differences. It's also nice for your opponent to sort of check, because you're then building that trust, especially if you don't know your opponent. You're building that trust and that bond with your opponent, and if you're saying things and then you're backing it up with literally support with your index cards, they're going to start to think you know what you're talking about. So when you do say something, they're not going to be checking you every 2 minutes. But yeah, it is just nice, and it also saves time as well. If you've got it right there in front of you, it saves going into your phone or going into wherever you're getting the information from, scrolling to the right place and then getting the right information. You're just going to have it bang there on the table, ready to go. Number 7, watch your command points, watch your CP. We are a CP thirsty army currently. I know there are factions that are even more thirsty than we are, but we've got quite a lot of decent stratagems right now, as well as the core stratagems. Now I've listed a few on the screen, well in fact I've listed all the Necron ones on the screen, as well as a few that I personally use that are in the core rulebook. So I want to go through them. Hungry Void for a +1 to the strength if you're a melee kind of army, if your list is purely melee. Eternal Guardian, you always want to keep that one up your sleeve to get your infantry character back up and running. Undying Legions, I probably use that the most to enact reanimation protocols as soon as you lose a model. Vengeful Stars I think is better than Overwatch, so that you can actually fire at an opposing player's unit as soon as you lose a model. Sunstorm to add assault to your weapon so you can advance on fire, and Conquering Tyrant for the rerolls to those wound rolls. They're all pretty good, all 6 of them. And then the ones that I personally use, Command Reroll, we all use those. Epic Challenge, if you've got a Nightbringer and you're fighting against a unit that's got a character in it, you want to get rid of that character, so you could use the Epic Challenge stratagem. Insane Bravery, if you do mess up your Battle Shock and you've lost OC and it's a real important objective. And Fire Overwatch, of course, sometimes you really do need that, especially if your opponent's trying to do things like deploy teleport homers and you can see it coming and you can't do much about it other than Fire Overwatch, so there you go. but you really need to watch your CP. There are ways of gaining additional CP, such as Imitate the Stormlord. It gives you 1 extra CP a turn. Also, a Necron Overlord will give you a free stratagem use on your unit, which kind of is the same as saving a CP. Well, it is saving a CP. It's kind of the same as gaining a CP, except you're not actually spending one. And you can actually use that stratagem even if you've already used it, which is pretty cool too. But the main point here is watch your CP. Don't go spending it heavily, because you will need it in these certain situations. So on to number 8, we've got screening units. You need screening units. I'm going to give you a few examples of what you could be screening out. So first of all, you've got the corners. The corners are a weak area, especially when it gets to turn 2, turn 3, because some factions tend to move out slightly and they leave their back doors open for deep strike units coming in. Deep striking Terminators, for example. You don't want them coming in your back doors. You've also got the central area, which it's less vulnerable than the corners, because there's always something around there, but sometimes there is an open door there where your opponent can get in. Also, it's in front of your deployment zone, so after your turn 1, you want to be pushing something out. I'm using Scarabs here because they're an easy screen, but you want to be screening off your gun line potentially. If it is just Necron Warriors, I wouldn't worry so much about it because they're so resilient and they're not doing much damage. I would just use the Warriors as a screen. But if you've got a load of Doomsday Arcs and Canoptic Doomstalkers, Locust Heavy Destroyers, you don't want them getting charged. So ideally you need a screen there, such as your Scarabs. Other types of screens are Infiltrator Screens. You've got the flayed ones, they've got the Infiltrator keyword, so you can be deploying them in the no man's land more than 9 inches away from enemy models and enemy deployment zone. Now this is good for 2 reasons. First of all, you can get them onto those objectives early. Maybe you've got, again, it could be secure no man's land as an objective, so you've already kind of got it. But also, if your opponent has got an Infiltrator unit, they have to stay 9 inches away from all your units. So if you drop these first, you've got that bubble there, which I put a bubble around these flayed ones just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. Your opponent won't be able to place any units within that bubble because it's 9 inches away from enemy model. So if you've got a couple of these units, in fact, you could potentially screen out the entire no man's land and then completely waste the Infiltrator's keyword for your opponent's unit. Number 9, play a balanced list. Now, I've played a few lists where I've been a bit imbalanced. I've been gun heavy, I've also been infantry heavy. And I've done okay, but I think I could have done a lot better. Now, in fact, my recent tournament, I was very secondary objective heavy. I didn't have any anti-tank, I didn't have any big hitters. There was regrets there. I still did pretty good. I wish I had a Transcendent Catan Shard in there instead of the Lich Guard units that were just sitting and holding objectives. So in my opinion, you do need a balanced list. You do need anti-tank. You do need something that can punch. You do need scoring units. You do, of course, need your primary holding units, and of course you need some sort of buffs and debuff units. Maybe a Reanimator could do that kind of job. But all in all, you do need a balanced list. You don't fully know what kind of card you're going to get. It is randomly drawn and then randomly selected, so you don't know what you're going to get. And a lot of the time, you don't know what your opponent is bringing. So therefore, you need to kind of be open and ready for anything and have anything, I suppose. Number 10, invest in box sets. Now, every box set so far that I've seen since, well, 9th edition, I suppose, has been a pretty good bargain. Now, these on the screen here, I don't believe these are available at this moment in time. The Combat Patrol probably is available. I think they've taken that down. I'm not entirely sure. But the Indomitus box set, that was the 9th edition release, or just before 9th edition. It was like an 8.5 edition release, if that makes any sense. So yeah, these kind of boxes are really rare, well, especially the Indomitus box and the Recruit edition, which they've actually stopped creating or producing now. That's the box where you've got tons of warriors as well as marine stuff, and what you could do is sell the marine stuff and get most of your money back. So it was almost like getting free stuff. I wish I brought more of them. And the Indomitus box was really, really good. It had all the stuff that's hard to get hold of, Reanimators, Scorpic Lords. You didn't have to buy the Royal Court box set because it was all in there with everything in it. But personally, if you see a box set, I would get it. Not necessarily the Combat Patrol, but if there's any unique box sets, just buy it. You will definitely benefit from it. You're definitely going to save money from it because the actual deal itself will be a lot cheaper than buying all the units combined individually. And if there are some units that you don't want in that box, you can just sell that part on. So definitely look at the box sets if you are trying to purchase any Necron models. Number 11, going back into the game itself, play the mission. Necrons are one of the better factions in terms of scoring, primaries as well as secondaries. There are some factions that are really good at killing, really good at removing units, and there are some factions that are kind of good at doing both, I suppose. But we're good at scoring. We're good at holding on to primaries, Necron warriors that don't die, flooding the battlefield. Same with the Lich Guard, they're almost impossible to kill unless you really target hard on them. But yeah, play the mission. If it's simple take and hold, then do it. Take and hold, make sure you max out your primaries and your secondaries. If you've got the units, then you'll score them. You will score them. But primaries, you've got to make sure you are prepared to score them. So play for the mission. Don't be lured into getting into a fight with, I don't know, some blood crushers. There's no need for it. Play the mission, let them come to you. On to number 12, edition proof your models with magnets. So a little cheeky sponsor here from the Magnet Baron here. Of course, they've been sponsoring us for years now, so check them out if you haven't already. Now, what I mean by edition proof, what do I mean by edition proof? So from 9th edition to 10th edition, you may have noticed some of the units' weaponry has been buffed or nerfed since the old edition. For example, Tomb Blades. Everybody in 9th edition was using the Gauss Blasters for Tomb Blades. Now the Particle Beamers are better. Is it the Particle Beamers, Particle Casters? I always get these mixed up. But whatever it is, the Tomb Blades have got a weapon now. A particle weapon that is D6 amount of attacks with blast, and it's got dead wounds. I believe that's the better weapon. But like most people, they've glued the actual Gauss Blasters onto their Tomb Blades. So what we do mean by edition proofing is magnetize your weapons, whether it's Locust Heavy Destroyers with the Destructors or the Exterminators. Whatever it is that you can magnetize, I would just magnetize it, because you don't know what it's going to be like in 11th edition. In a few years' time when 11th edition comes out, you don't know what the good weapons are going to be, you don't know what the bad weapons are going to be. And you're going to be stuck with whatever you've glued at this moment in time. So advice from me, edition proof your models while you can. Now on to number 13, it's the last one of this video. I kind of did allude to it earlier on, but I didn't actually have this point prepped. I'm going to just say it anyway because I think it's really important. It's to do with your reanimation protocols. You need to be ready with all the different combinations of reanimation protocols. Again, we mentioned this earlier, but I want to kind of recap here. When you're doing reanimation protocols, let's say you've got Necron warriors and you've got 20 of them. So they've got their numbers as legions, so they're going to be getting D6 for their reanimation protocols rather than D3. And if they're on an objective, it's going to be D3 plus 3. So already there's a little bit of a bonus. If there's a reanimator there, that's going to be another D3. The Undying Legion stratagem, where you're going to activate that in your opponent's turn, shooting phase or fight phase if you lose a model. That's another one right there. The Ghost Arc can react it if you lose a model in your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase again. So the stratagem and the Ghost Arc in itself are two positions where you can use this in your opponent's turn as soon as you've lost a model, and as soon as your opponent's unit has finished making their attacks. Because of course, if they're getting a focus fire, they're going to use another unit to start hammering down onto that same unit. Whereas if you go, right, before you start going onto your next unit, I'm going to use my Protocol of Undying Legions, and the likelihood is you get most of them back. The second unit goes after them, takes all their shots, you go, cool, I'm going to use my Ghost Arc, and I'm going to bring them all back. So they've now used 2 units to try and deal with your Necron warriors, and you've virtually taken no casualties because of a stratagem and a Ghost Arc. There's further boosts to this. You've got the, as we mentioned already, the Resurrection Orb in your opponent's command phase. That's only really going to come into play if they're in a fight in your turn. Ideally, you don't need that situation because you can fall back in your turn, but there is heroic intervention and things like that, or you might just get locked into a fight where you can't actually move back. I mean, it doesn't have to be warriors, in fact, it could be Lich Guard and you've actually chased the fight, you've made the charge in your turn, and you've started chopping around with your war scythe, so you've actually created this fight. So in your opponent's command phase, bang, you're going to bring some back, just like that. So yeah, you've got to remember all these different defense mechanisms. We do in fact have a video on this where we're talking about all the defense mechanisms. I think we did it purely for warriors though. But a lot of the stuff does apply to Lich Guard and Immortals as well. But yeah, it's only the Ghost Arc really that doesn't apply to those other units. But then you can talk about the Technomancer with the Feel No Pain save, Orokin with the Invulnerable save, the Chronomancer for the -1 to the hit rolls. There's so many different defense mechanisms. Make use of all of them. So guys, that is it was 12, it went to 13 top tips for Necron players. If you've got any more to add, put them down in the comments down below. Make sure you are subscribed, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one.